Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar where I'm going to show you 5 effective ways to master human anatomy. My name is João and I am a co-founder and lead content here at Kenhub. If you haven't heard about us, we're an online platform that helps students all over the world learn human anatomy and now histology. Now, a little bit about myself. I'm not going to go into a sad story of my life, but I'm just going to highlight a bit about my education. I went through a bachelor's of biomedical sciences, started medical school, and there is where I found my passion for medical education, which I think I now share with everyone in the team, the Kenhub team. So we're really passionate for creating materials that help you guys learn human anatomy efficiently. Now, what we've done here today is create a webinar that will go and answer some of the questions that you guys might have when you're home alone thinking, how am I going to tackle this subject? So we compiled 5 tips that we've learned not only from experience as students, but also the experience that we have on a daily basis with you guys and understand what are your true needs in order to master human anatomy. So what do you guys need to tackle this subject? So without further ado, I'm going to share here at the screen. Give me 1 minute. And here we are. The first thing we're going to be doing here is to summarize, give you an idea of the 5 tips that we're going to be covering throughout this webinar. The first one that we're going to be talking about are the small goals equal big success. And if you know, yes, anatomy is a huge topic and we have to split it into smaller goals or smaller steps so we're able to handle it throughout time, throughout our learning process. Second one is going to be efficient repetition. So we want to find ways, different types of content out there, so we're able to go through the material over and over again while having fun, while being engaged, but repeating it enough times so we can then memorize it easily. Third point or third tip is going to be space repetition. This might sound as a foreign concept, but it's not. Essentially, this means that we are going to go or revisit old topics throughout time and then introduce new ones along the way. And we're going to see how we do it later on this webinar. As for the fourth tip, we're going to talk about the true macro perspective, which essentially means that you need to know where you are to assess where you are so you can think about the next steps to take. And finally, we're going to talk about long-term support. This is one of my favorite topics because we're going to talk about the different types of support that you can find around yourself so you can be happy throughout this entire process, throughout the process of learning anatomy, but also throughout your school years or in life in general. Let's talk about the very first point here, the small goals equal big success. The first thing we're going to be doing here is to look at anatomy. So the first day that you really are in contact with a subject, the first thing your professors are going to give you is a course, a detailed course description or a syllabus. So that's the piece of information that you have, and also your textbooks that will give you an idea of what this subject entails. So this is when you have an idea of the length of the subject, and now you're prepared to split the subject into smaller topics. So look for these 2 elements, the syllabus and also your textbook. Even your textbook, if you open the first pages, usually have a description of the contents, so it shows the different chapters, different study units that you can see on that you're going to be covering on the textbook, and this gives you or will help you make a decision on how to split the subject into smaller pieces. Then we're going to take your schedule, look at your schedule throughout the semester. Some schools do anatomy or split anatomy into 2 semesters, others even 3. But look at your semester and think about, okay, where can I allocate these different subjects, these pieces that I just of the subject, so different topics, how can I split it throughout the weeks? Maybe take a week or 2 to kind of get an understanding of what takes to learn this subject. And then you're probably a bit more prepared to go back to the list that you did here and then allocate the different topics throughout your schedule. And the next one, like everything in life, take each topic at a time. So go through those topics, take one at a time, but also make sure that you take them or go through them throughout within the schedule that you have created, because you don't want to miss topics. You're closer to the exam date and you haven't gone through, say, 30 topics, and you can get a bit stressed. So make sure that one way or another that you cover the topic, even if it's just a bit more roughly, at least you get a sense of what is all about. I'm now on the website to show you how we have applied the first tip, the small goals equal big success, here on the website. So the first thing that you see on the dashboard is that we split the content by the different topics here on the left side, and on the right side we split it by different content types. So if we were to pick here upper extremity, you can see that we split this lecture, the upper extremity, into chapters. So you have the shoulder and arm, the elbow and forearm, and so on. We also organize it in a way so you can follow in a certain order that is usually the order that schools cover. And another important thing that you can see here on the small goals equal big success is that we really break it down for you, not only here on different study units, so smaller steps here, so bite-sized steps, and also in each one you see even broken down into smaller pieces of content. So you can really go through all the topics in anatomy in short steps. The next topic we're going to be talking about is efficient repetition. So same content, different ways. You want to make sure that you have different types of content around you that talks about the same, so has the same material, but different ways of approaching it. So one of them is to go to lecture. Go to lecture and lab, especially if you have a good relationship with your lecturer. If you really enjoy their lectures, it's really easy to just go sit down, pay attention, and it's a great way to learn. Also, lab is a great opportunity to be a bit more hands-on. So if you do dissection or prosection of cadavers, it's also a chance, another way to learn this subject. Another way is to explore the images on your atlas. This is one of my favorite ways to even explore content in general. I love imagery. I'm a visual learner. So a way to do it, if you have different textbooks around you, just look at the different images of how, the different depictions of how these medical illustrators created beautiful images that are out there and how they depict the human body. And this is a great way to learn, especially to learn the terms, the different anatomy terms. But it is important to keep in mind, the second point that I'm going to add here is to, in addition to exploring different images, the different terms, different labels that you might see on the textbooks or in different atlases, it's to then find clear written information. And what do I mean by that is that whenever you're learning a term, say you learn a part of the body, so one structure of the human body, you learn how to identify it, what it looks like, where it is found in the body, but you have to learn more information beyond just what it looks like. So it's important to find text, really good written info that helps with this part of, with anatomy, with learning anatomy. A way to do so is going online, finding good articles. At Kenhub, we have a collection of articles. We have a library full of articles that will help you learn this material. But also, if you have textbooks that have a lot more written information, so some textbooks are essentially just images, others will go beyond images and have more written information that you can use to then complement the images. Another point might be a little bit of a controversial point, but I will risk say it, that if lectures are not enough, then watch videos. And what I mean by this is probably something personal, but also something that I've seen with other students, is that some students might feel a bit uncomfortable with lectures because they don't have a good relationship with their instructor, so they don't like the way the instructor teaches. So one of the ways that you can go beyond your lecture is to maybe watch videos. Find a good video tool or video resource and make sure to watch the videos. That way you have some sort of the same engagement that you would probably get on, or a very similar engagement that you would get from a lecture. So you have visuals, you have a voice, and you can learn the material. Now this, of course, if you really feel that the lecture is not doing for you, or if you want to do something beyond lecture. So if you're at home, in the comfort of your home, you can essentially watch videos. You can pause them, you can go back, so it's a really good tool. And the next point here for efficient repetition is, say if you have a friend that really needs your help, this is the best way, in my opinion, to repeat the material, because one thing that is going to happen when you sit down with a friend and explain the material is that you know that you know this material, right? Because you kind of have to go back and revisit the material you've been learning and kind of reassure yourself that you know this material before you pass it on to another friend, or before you clarify it to another friend. And the next one is, or the final one here for efficient repetition, is to be creative, have fun. Why not? Life is too short. So you want to find ways to go over the content again and again, but in a fun and engaging way. So for example, maybe write some flashcards, some fun flashcards. Also, create some trivia nights with your friends. Call them and have them come to your house. Ask them questions, do some prizes, anything that really makes the learning process fun. I'm here again on the upper extremity lecture so I can show you the second tip that I've been talking about. So efficient repetition, we want to have different types of content that talk about the same material. Again, if we scroll down and look at the different study units here, the humerus and scapula, muscles of the arm and shoulder, and so on, you can see that we split them into 4 types of content that you can use. So you can watch videos, take a quiz, look at or browse through the atlas, or even read articles. So 4 different ways that you can learn this material. The next one we're going to be talking about is spaced repetition. Like I mentioned before, this is a way of revisiting old topics throughout time while introducing new ones. And the way to do so is to keep track of the difficult points or difficult topics or weak points that you have. And the reason is you want to go back and revisit the old topics, but you want to always revisit the topics that you have a bit more trouble with. So always find a way to highlight or to bookmark the difficult topics, or the topics you have a bit more difficulty with, or the weak points. So then you can just go back and go over them again. Make sure that you allocate some time every week to review the difficult topics. So again, going back to when you look at your schedule, make sure that you save a couple of hours or even more throughout the week, so you can then look at these topics that you have a bit more trouble with. As for the third tip, spaced repetition, we're now here on the dashboard on our website. I will scroll down to show you 2 of my favorite elements here. The weak spots, a list of your weak spots, where you can see a list of the terms you are not doing so well whenever you're taking the quizzes. These are the terms that you need to work on, so it's good to understand where you are here. But also here on the right side, you find the revision quiz, where you can see here, even if you read, that we will take you some of the terms that you're not doing so well throughout the different quizzes on the website and expose you to those questions again, so you have a chance to revisit the old topics or topics you have some weaknesses on. So this is something that is very useful for the third tip that we talked about. Next, we're going to be talking about the true macro perspective. And what I mean by this is just making sure that you can assess where you are and then think about the next steps. But an important thing to mention here is that you have to find motivation through your achievements. So every time you complete one or two topics, or if you're doing a quiz at home, make sure that you pat yourself on the back. Make sure that you open a champagne bottle, whatever you have to do to really find motivation and happiness, because there will be times where you will have to tackle a lot of problems, difficult problems. So you want to make sure that you're on a good place. So again, know where you are. Look at the course outline, so review it again and make sure that you pinpoint where you are, and get a sense of how many topics you have left. So if you are 2 or 3 weeks before your exam and you see, okay, I still have 30 topics to go, you can if you're a little bit behind, you can plan ahead and make sure that you cover all those topics before you go to the exam. Another thing you could do is ask some old colleagues or people who have taken this course before to give you some past exam papers and go through them, because that way you can understand what they expect from you on the exam. Also, feedback from study groups. If you're in a study group, it's a great way to get a bit of understanding of the energy in the room. So understand what questions are they asking, if they're prepared, what they're doing. If they're doing something different, maybe you can learn from them as well. But also, if you guys are asking each other questions, you can get also an opportunity to assess your knowledge. Another trick is flashcards. So if you have a pile of flashcards, just go through that pile that you've created and then look at create 2 piles, one where you have correct answers and another one where you have incorrect answers. And of course, if you have the pile with correct answers, it's much larger than the one with incorrect answers, then you know you're okay. Otherwise, you might have to really make sure that you step up your game or find other ways to speed up the learning process. As for the true perspective fourth tip, we're now also on the website on the dashboard. I will scroll down to show you here these elements that are very interesting. The points earned, the points that you accumulate whenever you answer a correct answer. You have the hours trained, so the amount of time you spent on the quizzes and the amount of terms you've learned in total. So far I've learned 16. I have a long way to go because there are thousands of terms that you need to learn in anatomy. And also note here that you can see the same information, but for the last quizzes that you have taken. If I also scroll up and go back to upper extremity and say pick one of the quizzes that I've taken, here are the muscles of arm and shoulder, click here on the quiz. And I've taken this quiz before. You can even see that here I can repeat it. But scroll down and you'll find more information about how you did on this quiz. So the success rate, you can see that I did 80%. Practice time, you can see 1 minute and 40 seconds. And the points earned was essentially 21 points that I've earned with the correct answers on these quizzes. So you can really get an assessment of how you're doing on the quizzes. Also notice if I scroll down, further down, you can see your weak spots again with the third point we talked about, spaced repetition, and also with assessing your knowledge, the fourth point. This is interesting because you find here the 3 main weak spots that I have on this quiz. Finally, one of my favorite topics, long-term support. This is a mushy topic, but I think worth talking about. You have to make sure that throughout this entire process of learning anatomy or other subjects, or in school in general, you have to be happy. So or in life in general. You have to be happy and find support, long-term support around you. One thing you can do is to find a study group. Like I mentioned before, study groups are really helpful. You can get a bit of feedback on how you're doing. You can also understand if people are struggling, you will feel that you're not alone in this process. A lot of us, when you're at home alone studying without anyone, you always think, okay, am I the only person feeling this way? Am I the only person thinking that I cannot pass this exam, or I'm struggling with this subject? So this is a great way to get some feedback and to understand that you have people that can help you out there. The next one is your instructors. I mean, if you have a good relationship with your instructors, my experience is quite positive. I had instructors that even gave their phone numbers to the students. They also had office hours. So all these opportunities that you can just go to them and say how you're going through the subject and that you want to pass. A lot of instructors really want you to pass. There might be one crazy one out there that really want all their students to fail, but I don't think that's the majority. So make sure that you just express how you feel about the subject, your weak points, and they will definitely guide you. Very, very important one, family and friends. Well, a lot of us, we have to leave home and go to different countries even, or far away from home. So the only way we can stay in touch with family is through now Skype or other ways, other types of technology. But you can really find time throughout the week that you can contact your family back at home, or some of the friends that you have left behind, either in high school or other friends that you have. Or if you're in a new place, make an effort to go out, socialize a little bit. Even if it's a couple of hours per week, make sure that you have this time dedicated to friends and family, because this is some time that you're also dedicating to yourself. So do find this time and surround yourself with the love and support that you need. This is a more technological, more virtual way of getting long-term support, but an idea is to also do social media or forums that you might find. A lot of groups are usually formed, say, on Facebook for classes or for schools, that you can use to then exchange some ideas, even questions that you might have. Some people even exchange notes on these groups, so it's a useful way to keep up with what's happening and to also get the support that you need. The other one is a bit more fun, I would say, ice cream and pizza. And by that, if you had a really, 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 really bad day, you're coming home, it didn't go so well, you didn't get the grade you were expecting, or you just had a bad day in general, just call a friend, watch your favorite series, and eat a little bit of comfort food. It helps. It really helps. But only do it once upon a time. Don't do it all the time, because then it's not healthy. So I don't advise you do that all the time. In any case, please leave on the comments your favorite ice cream brand. Just saying, if you want to leave that I would definitely appreciate. And before I go, I wanted to just show you here a summary of what we just talked about. So you have a picture of what we talked about, of these 5 important tips. The first one was small goals equal big success. And by that, just create small steps so you can really tackle this huge subject, anatomy. The next one is efficient repetition, and by that, expose yourself to different types of content so you can go over and over again through the same material but in different ways, that way improving memorization. Then spaced repetition, so revisiting old topics while introducing new ones, but make sure that you know your weak points, so you know which topics to handle first. Then true macro perspective, and by this, assess where you are so you know the next steps to take. And finally, long-term support. Make sure that you surround yourself by great people that can help you through this really, really challenging time. And I'm now back to myself here, where I just wanted to briefly say thank you to all of you that joined on this webinar. It was such a pleasure doing this. Make sure that you leave comments here, any questions, suggestions that you may have, because we want to do these on a regular basis. Remember that last point that I mentioned, long-term support. This is something that we want to do for you guys. We want to guide you, we want to be there for you throughout this journey. Also, make sure that you check out our website because we are constantly updating. So a lot of new materials coming out, a lot of new features. Every week we're publishing something new that will help you tackle human anatomy and histology. Once again, thank you. This is João and I'm signing off. Bye-bye.